I wouldn't see them again for 2 months. Mr. Yabayer helped me load Miles into the helicopter. Then I hugged Mrs. Cecilia and I cried, "I'll call you every day. Please call me every day." She pinched my cheek and stood up straight. "Stand tall, Ia. Be strong. We will keep in touch." "You promise, Miss Cecilia?" I asked her. "Oh, I promise," she replied. I got into the helicopter and waved goodbye. As it lifted into the night sky, I watched Mr. and Mrs. Yabayer disappear into the stillness of the night. I couldn't stop crying. I was so happy. Amila, fast asleep, was Amila fast asleep with me were alone in that helicopter ride from Manhattan to Greenwich. The lights of the city looked like a festive Christmas show that high in the air. And when they finally landed at the Yabayer estate, I was greeted by Miss Robbins. A guest room was already waiting for Amila and I to relax, so we didn't have to drive home so late. Miss Robbins watched Miles while I took a hot shower, and the two of us slept so peacefully. But in the morning, when I woke up, I realized that Mr. and Mrs. Yabayer were already gone, and that I was asleep in an empty house, a house that was already sold, and maybe I should be on my way too. Amila and I left around 10 a.m. We went home and we slept. We slept like princesses in a fairy tale land. And that is the end of chapter 13. I am now at chapter 14. This is, I believe, this might be the last chapter of the book. Oh no. Let's see. It's close enough to it. Anyway, I'm going to just keep reading. Chapter 14. 2.5 years later. "Mommy, juice," Amila asked from the back seat. We hadn't even pulled out of the garage yet. I handed her sippy cup filled with apple juice and hit the remote garage opener. Today was a special day for Miles. She was meeting her father face to face for the first time. She had become even more beautiful than I imagined. Her smile big, her eyes bright and amber, just like her father. Her hair grew so fast that I had to cut it every month, and it was thicker than peanut butter. It was curly and black and hung all the way down to her waist. She is so smart and beautiful, and I'm so proud of her. She already knew her name and address, though we moved since she was born. "Mila, you okay?" I asked her as she sipped on her juice. She smiled at me and laughed, something she always did when I was concerned. She had talked to Waldo on the phone at least 10 times. I sent him a new picture at least once every 6 months, though I haven't had the time to take the new ones I wanted since Mila's 3rd birthday 2 weeks ago. It was the beginning of April, and it was snowing. The temperature barely reached 30 degrees, and I had to pull out winter clothes to keep us warm. I took off my gloves in the truck. My left one was too snug around my engagement ring. I turned the heat in the Range Rover to low to keep from sweating, but it was useless. Amila and I are just hot-blooded people. I pulled into a gas station and bought gas. As the gas attendant pumped the gas, I reached into the back seat and took off Amila's Montclair Arientime winter coat. I also took off her hat so she wouldn't sweat. She sat in her jeans and sweater and tin boots, staring out the window at the snow falling, sipping on apple juice. Every now and again she'd reach for the flakes when they landed on the window. I unzipped my Canada Goose too and took off my hat. Ever since I had Anayana, my hair hadn't stopped growing. Well, it could be that, or it could be all the damn sex I'm having with my fiancé, David, Amila's stepfather, whom is also Arnold Carbrattio's youngest brother. I was the smallest I'd ever been, at 170 pounds. The last time I saw Waldo, I was 220. With my 2 daughters, it seems the baby weight just came off instantly. Amila was finished with her juice, and she placed the cup in Anayana's car seat that was right next to hers. Just as the gas attendant finished pumping the gas, my cell phone rang. It was David. "Yes, honey," I answered. I heard Anayana crying and could sense the urgency in David's voice. "She won't stop crying. She hasn't stopped crying since you left," he complained. I could already see him, Anayana in his arms, clothes everywhere, toys on the floor. "Honey, it's only been 5 minutes. Is she wet?" I asked him. "I don't know. I didn't check." David was a proud father, but a very nervous one. I remember in the hospital after I had Anayana, he had cried uncontrollably. And when the nurses placed her in his arms, he was like a scientist holding highly sensitive materials. His eyes were green and wide, and his face had flushed red. It was like he wasn't even breathing. Honey, change her, then feed her. She'll fall right to sleep, okay? I promise, I instructed. Okay, he answered. I'm driving, but I gotta go. I love you, I told him. Oh, I love you more. Please be safe. And tell Mila I miss her already. He waited till I told Mila, and she let out a laugh that made David laugh himself. I'll be safe. I'll see you both in a few hours, okay? I assured them. I hung up the phone and I punched in a direction to Sabowski Correctional Institution in Enfield, Connecticut on the GPS. The hour and a half ride would be the first time for Marla and I. The first time. I wanted Marla to sleep, so I turned on my nature CD and let the forest rain do its job. She was out in 20 minutes, and I had a little time to think to myself. My life had taken an unbelievable turn. Arnold Carbriati, the financial planner Mr. Yabayer had connected me with, was his weight in gold and more. He managed to turn my $500,000 into $1.5 million in a year and a half, thanks to some connections only made at high levels and between friends. Mr. Carbriati was a smart man and very handsome. And one day, during a business brunch in the city, 5 months into our initial investment, I met his younger brother, David. But this was by accident. We were leaving a restaurant, and Arnold had hugged me. David was getting out of a cab to meet Arnold, and we just locked eyes. It was love at first sight. His half-Italian, half-Irish features were like heaven. He was built like a gladiator and had strong green eyes, bedroom eyes. He was quite hairy, but it suited his 6'2", 240-pound robust frame. Sex ran so fast across my mind that I'd forgotten that I had been celibate since I left Waldo. I didn't say anything at first, though, after Mr. Carbriati introduced us. But about 2 months later, Mr. Carbriati contacted me with a very interested David Carbriati on the other line. Can we go out to dinner, to a movie? I remember him asking. I had blushed and couldn't believe it. I looked at myself in the mirror. I was a beautiful woman, light skin, light brown eyes, long black hair down my back, small nose, pink lips. I was very attractive. It was the mental part of me that was questioning. And thanks to weekly visits to Dr. Nublaw, my shrink, I was piecing myself back together, one day at a time. That first date had gone well, a little too well. I learned that the Cabriatis come from money, and that they own real estate in California and Ireland. They also own several wineries, a private plane dealership. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Private plane dealership. This, David told me on the first date, which I thought was a little arrogant, till I realized he was just trying to impress me, since he knew that I had money, which he figured out due to the fact that his high-profile older brother was my financial planner. When I finally told him how I got the money, we laughed. I felt a little insecure, but he said that I was too beautiful for insecurities and that I was worth every penny and more. Our first night sexually was a rainy one. It started out in his car and almost ended in the garage, but we happened to make it up my stairs into the bedroom. I got pregnant the very first time, and I couldn't believe it. Neither could David. He proposed 3 months later at Rockefeller Center during the lighting of the Christmas tree. It was a real dream come true. Thoughts of David were always happy ones. When he first met Amila, she was just shy of 1 year old. He was so taken back by her beauty. He just held her and looked at her. Then he looked at me with his mouth wide open. Can we make one just like her? I remembered him saying. Oh, I laughed. He was dead serious. And apparently psychic, because he got his wish. And Ayana, now 3 months old, is Amila's younger twin. Except that Ayana has her father's green eyes and his auburn brown curly hair. I thought about Waldo, only because it was in my heart to. But my life was so different now. It was nothing and absolutely nothing like those days on Waterfield. Waldo was doing better, or so he told me once on the phone. He had joined a prison ministry and was dealing with his gorilla one day at a time. When we got to the prison, I was a little nervous, but I promised Waldo that I'd bring Amila so they could meet, and I kept my promises. My Manolo Blahnik Timbs fit better than I thought they would. I got out of the Range Rover in my skinny jeans and cashmere sweater and put my Canada Goose back on. I put my hat on and gloves and grabbed my Prada tote and Miles's Coach baby bag and went over to her side to get her. When I opened the door, she had woke up and reached for me. I put her coat on, then shrouded her to my hip, and closed the door. I took careful steps through that parking lot because of the snow and made my way in. I passed by a full-length mirror next to the front receptionist and saw how fine I was. I turned around and looked at myself from head to toe. For the first time in my life, my upper thighs didn't touch at all. 1 month ago, after I had stretch mark removal surgery, 1 month ago, I was placed me right in my bikini body. We signed in and waited in a small waiting room for them to get Waldo. When I heard his name, I placed Amila down and grabbed her hand as we walked through the door. When Waldo saw us, he stopped and he stared. I bent down and took off Amila's hat and unzipped her coat. Her hair fell down to her butt, and she had one finger in her mouth. I stood up and pulled my hair out of my coat and let it fall smooth down to my lower back. We walked over to him, and as we got closer, I saw that he was crying. He picked Miles up and hugged her. The tears fell from his eyes like the snow falling from the sky. He looked at Amila's face, her eyes and hair, the way she laughed. But when he looked at me, it was heartbreaking. I could see the apology in him crashing through and coming to the surface. He placed Amila down and hugged me, and he wouldn't let go. We sat down. He held Amila. She didn't fight or fuss. Somehow she just recognized his voice from the phone. Isha. I keep saying my own name. Ia. Oh my God, Ia, he said about 3 times. I realized that he had probably seen a ghost. He had never seen me so fit and lean. He had never seen my hair so long and straight and not in some ponytail. He'd never seen me wear hoop earrings and bracelets. He'd never seen my nails done or even in clothes outside of Old Navy and Rainbow. I looked too damn good, so good. How are you, he asked. I finally told him a few months ago about the lottery and everything. He was so upset on the phone and kept apologizing for hurting me. I forgave him, not because I was weak, because I was gone and it was just too late. I was David's from head to toe, and there was no need for me to run and hide anything from Waldo anymore. Thank God, I always told him. I am blessed and happy. I'm so happy, I told him. It made him sad. That part of him was dead and gone. I talked to my mom today, he told me. Oh, yes, I talked to her on Tuesday. We're going to see her on Thursday before they leave for Spain for good. I told him I didn't want to see him sad, but everything I said made him sad. Every bit of my happiness was like a bomb to him. It blew him away that someone he thought so little of could mean so much. Look, Ia, I've been working at my problems, and I'm dealing with this demon. I've been talking to God, and I'm better now. I'm getting better now. Amila reached up for his braid. He had let his hair grow out again, and someone was braiding it for him. You let your hair grow, I commented, trying to change the subject. Oh, yeah, he answered. Darren does it. He's a barber, stylist, or whatnot, but he's pretty good. I smiled and clapped my hands together. Waldo saw my engagement ring. What's that, he asked, like a child. Oh, I'm getting married, I told him. In September. Married, he asked. To who? Excuse me, I answered. No, I don't mean that. I mean, who is he? Is he a good guy? Is he treating you well, he asked. Well, I answered. I'm happy, Waldo. He makes me happy. The truth is, he doesn't know how to do anything else but make me happy, I answered. I didn't want him to be sad. I couldn't tell him anymore. He doesn't know about our weekend getaways and trips to Manhattan on helicopters. He doesn't know about our British short hair snuggles or Mila's $100,000 trust fund when she turns 21. He doesn't know these things. He doesn't know about the lakefront $1.5 million house that David and I bought and my new Range Rover. He doesn't know about David's stockbroker career and the money he comes from and how much his family loves me. He doesn't know these things, and I don't think he's ready to know, and so I don't tell him. I sent a letter to you about a month ago. I didn't tell you because I wanted it to be a surprise. I cut him off. How do you know where I live? I asked him, quite curious. Oh, well, Hugo, don't get mad, but I asked him to follow you home the next time you came to Stanford, and he did. But that was like 6 months ago. I smiled to myself and shook my head. I had already moved 2 months before that and had went to the condo to help my real estate agent for the sale. He must have didn't see the for sale sign on the side. Really, I answered. Yeah, but the letter got returned, he answered. Oh, I replied. I don't live there anymore. You don't, he asked.